In 1915, in World War I, in Belgium, outside of Belgium, huge field called Flanders. Lieutenant John McRae, an American soldier, a physician, a poet, had to bury one of his dear friends. And as he was at the gravesite, he looked around that field called Flanders and wrote a poem. A couple of minutes, I'm going to read you that poem that resonates from 111 years ago to today, Memorial Day 2026. But what is Memorial Day? Well, ever since the beginning of the United States, from the Revolutionary War, obviously Americans honored the war dead at the gravesite. In the Civil War, which ended in 1865, in 1868, a few years after, the Union Army decided to formalize this ongoing ritual of decorating grave sites and remembering people from the 1700s, and put a day together to memorialize all soldiers who had died in U.S. wars. And this day was May 30th, and it was basically called Decoration Day, to decorate the grave sites in honor of those who have given their life for Americans in wartime. But it wasn't until 1968 when the United States Congress tried to unify all the various states that had their own formal recognition. U.S. Congress said, this is too important of an issue. We should have one day for all Americans recognizing those who have given their life in service for all of us. And in 1968, they decided to pick not May 30th, which was the historic day, but the last Monday in May, to bring together a 3-week weekend so that Americans had more time to celebrate this very unique time of honoring the war dead by decorating their graves. And many of you remember in the early 60s, you couldn't go anywhere in the United States without someone being on a corner handing you a poppy, a little red flower, an artificial flower. And you would take that, and when you went graveside to honor your family dead who died in war or others, you would place that poppy at the gravesite. That became known as, and is today, Memorial Day. It used to be called Decoration Day, and people still do decorate their graves. But who are these people that died in the United States? Well, just listen to this. In the Revolutionary War, George Washington times, 25,000 Americans died. In the War of 1812, we had another war with Britain right after the Revolutionary War. In 1812, we were fighting over maritime rights for trade. 20,000 Americans died. In 1846, a few years later, we had the Mexican-American Wars. As the United States moved to the west, we fought Mexico, and 13,000 Americans died in exchange for the United States taking the territory of California, Texas, New Mexico, Nevada, and Utah. In obviously 1860 to 1865, the Civil War, over 700,000 Americans died in 4 years on both sides of, obviously, a civil war. Relatively speaking, if the United States were to have a civil war today, the relative number would be 7 million. There were 30 million people in 1860. There's 320 million now. Imagine a civil war in America and 7 million of our brothers and sisters die in wartime. That's what the equivalent would be today, reflecting on the Civil War. Spanish-American War came in 1898. 3,000 died. We got the territorial rights for Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. World War I follows that. 120,000 Americans died. World War II follows that. 400,000 Americans died. Korea, 37,000 Americans died. Vietnam, 60,000 Americans died. And of course, the War on Terror, 2001 to now, about 7,000 Americans have been killed. That's over 1.5 million Americans, conservatively, have died fighting for the United States of America, for us, brothers and sisters who live in freedom. We're not counting tens of millions of people who have been wounded in a minor injury or significant life-changing disabilities. Well, back in 1915, Lieutenant John McCrae, as I said, buried his friend, and he looked over Flanders Field and he saw the white crosses signifying the graves. But he saw a juxtaposition. Whereas the white cross signified a dead soldier, he saw a red, beautiful poppy flower that grew in Flanders Field. And he just saw an image of life and of death and the necessity to carry on the legacy of those soldiers, men and women who have given their life so that we can be free. And he penned these words in 1915. In Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. So on this Memorial Day, raise our flag, the red, white, and blue. Red standing for the hardness and valor of Americans, the white for purity and innocence, the blue for vigilance and justice. So fly that flag. Honor those who have died and those who have been wounded, and enjoy your families as this is the unofficial start to summer. But please reflect on the meaning of this day through 250 years. And today, may we Americans bless God. Tom Trento, have a great day.